Welcome back to my channel. This is going to be the next part in the Learn With Me About Crystals, or Learn With Me Crystals, or whatever you want to call it, series. In this video I thought I would talk about cleansing and charging crystals. And in my last video, I really feel like all my videos, I really feel like I'm just rambling on, and so this time, well, not this time, I take notes, but I thought I would bring my notes with me so that it would help keep me on track. So I thought I would start out with some of the techniques more commonly used to cleanse crystals. And when I say cleanse, I don't mean like clean them, even though I would recommend cleaning them when you first get them. Even some of the books I've read recommend cleaning them. They recommend cleaning them with some water with a little bit of soap, so it's just slightly soapy. And this is because, especially when you get them from stores or things like that, well, they'll have dust particles on them, and you can feel when it's not feeling great. Like, it feels maybe not grainy, but I don't know why the word cloudy keeps coming to mind, but it doesn't feel right. There's a texture, a film or something on top that you can feel. So cleaning them when you first get them is a good idea. But when I say cleansing, I mean cleansing it of any negative energies, on unwanted energies, impurities, and things like that. So some ways in which you can cleanse them. One of the more common ones is salt and water. You would use salt in your water. I would wait until it dissolves. The salt dissolves completely before adding the crystals in. But you can use salt water. I think sea salt is the best. Sea salt it's less processed, things like that. It's more natural sea salt. In your water would be best. You definitely don't want to use like iodized salt, because there's added stuff in there, so you don't want any of that. But salt water is more common, and you could get like a big glass bowl, fill it with your salt water, or enough so that you can add your crystals in, so that the water doesn't overflow. And this will help remove a lot of negative energy. Salt is very purifying, as is water. So together, I guess you could say maybe it gives it like a double whammy kind of thing. But when using water or liquid, you want to make sure that you're not putting crystals that are water soluble in the water. So you want to make sure, I wish I could remember what the minimum most hardness was of a crystal that in order to put in water. Personally, I stay away from anything that ends in ite. So like calcite, calcite, malachite, unchite, anything that ends in ite, selenite, they are most likely to be water soluble. So I would not put those kinds of crystals in there. I would also any crystal that is soft, a softer crystal. I mean, it's not going to feel soft, but they scratch easily, they abrade easily. You don't want to put that in water. You can also just use plain water. You can put your crystals in plain water. You can also use running water to cleanse your crystals. And I have used salt water, running water, and just a bowl of plain water to cleanse my crystals in the past, and I find they all work just fine. If you're lucky enough to have like a natural body of water, a river or a stream or something, you can cleanse your crystals in that too. I would be careful. You don't want to go down the stream or whatever, but natural body of water or a natural flowing body of water is also a good way to cleanse your crystals. You can just use salt. You can have a bowl or a plate of salt and submerge your crystals in that. You want your crystals to be completely covered in the salt if you're going to use the salt to remove those impurities. Again, if they are soft crystals, you don't want to use salt because it will, the salt molecules or particles will abrade your crystals if they're too soft. So you want to stay away from that as well. And again, a good rule of thumb for me is anything that ends in "ite." I wouldn't submerge in salt. You can use soil, the earth. I think I've heard of some who have used, like they've got soil, potting soil, and use that or place them in their plants. I would say that's a good idea if you want to place them in your plants, because your plants are giving that earth energy to that potted soil. But you can most definitely place them in your yard. You want to be mindful of where you're leaving them. So if you're going to place them in the soil, you might want to leave them in longer than you would, say, in water, submerged in water and salt, maybe like a day. But soil, maybe like a week. You could use sound. I have also used sound. In the past, I've used my singing bowl. This itches so much, so I don't wear bangs. I've used my singing bowl in the past. You can use a singing bowl, a bell, if you know how to use one, a tuning fork. But the sound vibrations is what would help remove those negative energies or unwanted energies from your crystals. I would say, personally speaking, if you're going to use sound, you also need to put your, with any of these, you really do need to put your intent. But when you submerge it in water or you're planting it in the earth, you're not focused on your intent the entire time. That initial time that you're doing your cleansing process. I would say, obviously, your intent is important. But while something like the singing bowl or something where you're producing sound, I would think the entire time it is best to use your intent of removing any unwanted energies or vibrations from your crystals. You should maintain that the entire time you're doing that. Wow, I say a lot. I need to stop that. Smoke is another way you can remove unwanted energies from your crystals. You can use incense. You can use smudge stick, even sweetgrass. Sweetgrass has been used in ceremonies among Native Americans. It's very cleansing, purifying. It can be used for protection. You can cast a circle with sweetgrass as well. I would say any herbs, like obviously sage. You can use frankincense. Did I write down? Cedar. I would even say copal, even though I haven't seen, and I haven't exhausted all resources pertaining to crystals, but I would say copal too. Copal is used for purification, for protection as well. why not? I would say any herb that's used for purification, things like that. Absolutely, why can't you use that? I would say, personally speaking, whatever works for you, do that. If you find particular herbs have been great for you as far as cleansing goes, as far as purification goes, why not use that? Some use cigar smoke for purification. And I don't mean just crystals, I mean purifications in general. So that, I would say, whatever floats your boat, whatever works for you, do you. Let's see, is there other stuff? You can use the sun and the moon. You can put your crystals on your windowsill. I've done that as well. During when the sun is out, you could even do it during certain phases or astrological phases, moon phases. You can put your stones out for the moon. I would say, again, you should use caution if you're going to put your stones out in the sun. Sunlight can fade certain stones. It can fade amethyst. It can fade citrine, things like that. So the sun can fade certain stones. Quartz, clear quartz is always safe. Your moonstone is always safe. Although personally speaking, I think if you want to charge your moonstone, what better than charging it under the moon? Ideally, cleanse. Ideally, I would say full moon or new moon energies. And the reason why I got a little mixed up there, and this is kind of going into the next topic, or the next part of this, but some actually will charge their stones under the sun or moon energies as well. Another way you can cleanse your stone is using another stone. You can use selenite. Selenite is a purifying stone. It removes negative energies. You can, if you have like a long selenite wand or a selenite slab, depending on the size of your crystal, depending on the size of the selenite, you can place them on the selenite to cleanse. I have not done that, but I have seen others do that, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have seen others use selenite to cleanse their stones. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think I've seen people use citrine, like a giant citrine, I guess slab, but slab is really not the term I'm looking for, but a giant chunk of citrine, if it's a little flat. I think I have seen people use citrine to cleanse their crystals as well. But, so those are some of the more common, I guess, cleansing techniques for your crystals. Now, when it comes to charging your crystals, charging or programming your crystals, now some would argue that you don't need to do this because your crystals know their purpose. Each crystal has a particular thing that it does, energies that it works with. However, crystals have more than one energy. You can use an amethyst for more than one thing. You can use it to connect to spirit, to connect to a higher consciousness. You can use it, you could be using it to help in sobriety. Different things. So, if you feel that you don't need to program your crystal, that your crystal knows what you need it to do, then yes. I personally have not always programmed my crystals or charged my crystals either. But again, I don't want it to come off as I'm someone who is always working with crystals all the time. And so, you know what I'm saying? So, but a way you can charge your crystals is to hold your crystal in your dominant hand, and you want to basically use well, you'll use visualization, but you want to use your inner power, your personal power, to charge your crystal. And so through visualization, you need to visualize your intent or the purpose you're imbuing into this crystal, and then visualize your energy pouring from your dominant hand into your crystal. Or some might, cup their hands and imagine their basically energy coming from them pouring into the crystal, pouring that intent into the crystal. And this is a very powerful thing. This is you lending your energy to these crystals. It's you lending your personal power to these crystals. And this personal power is coming from a place from within, but this is also something you use when you are consecrating your tools for ritual work, for spells, and things like that. This personal power is what you're using when you're casting spells. So this is a very potent and powerful thing. So visualization is very important, and it's really the key thing to help imbue these crystals with whatever attribute, whatever energy you're trying to imbue in them. So, remember that you have to stay focused, and, you could even visualize, say, a light coming from you and going into the crystal, if that's how you visualize your power traveling from you into something else. Whether it's you cupping your hand over it, you holding your hand over it, and you're visualizing power coming from one hand into the crystal, it coming up from your hand into the crystal, whatever it is. So that's mainly how you would charge your crystal. So I think I'm going to stop here. Try to not have these videos be too long and me just blathering on. So thanks for watching, and blessed be.